What? Yeah, no, I'll review the film. I just gotta catch my breath.
Be careful what you wish for, Parker.
Hello, Peter.
Ah yes, today we have Spider-Man No Way Home. Now with a movie like this, I almost hesitate to put a review out there because it's one of those movies that's just, it's so large, so enormous, and everybody's opinions online at this point are kind of coming to the same consensus. Even before the film came out, they were kind of coming to the same predetermined conclusion that this film would be awesome and nostalgia-filled and just a great Spider-Man film, one of the best yet. So going into this, I would think what more can I contribute to the conversation? And really there's not a whole lot aside from my opinion. So going into this, please know, this is a spoiler-free review. I'm going to keep it pretty succinct to let people form their own opinions, but I'll give my quick opinion and just some general notes if I even have that much to give. But yeah, there's no way to delay the
inevitable.
So Spider-Man No Way Home came out this year, at the very tail end of it, 2021, a holiday December, almost like a Star Wars time frame release, which is pretty bold, not to be a summer blockbuster, but it worked. The marketing and people just sold this movie. This is the third in what is currently he is the star, so I'll put him up here. This is the third in the MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe's, Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy. He is currently, for all intents and purposes, the Spider-Man. We've had other Spider-Men in the past before, portrayed in different ways, different styles, different films, and different universes and animations, etc., etc. He is currently the current Spider-Man. So I've said it before, if I haven't said it, I'll say it now, but I think Tom Holland does a great job. I think he kills it as portraying Peter Parker in the Spider-Man movies, and he's been a great addition to the currently ongoing MCU. So absolutely no complaints there. But this is the final in the current trilogy. Now they've confirmed in recent reports that there's going to be 3 more, so there is going to be another trilogy in the pipes, somewhere farther in the future, but this is currently the newest one. The big selling point for this one, in case you didn't already know from all the massive amounts of marketing that have been hitting online everywhere, is that the universes are colliding because it gets to a point in this movie, and I'm saying nothing more than what's in the trailer, it's gotten to a point now where Spider-Man's identity has been revealed to the world against his will, and he's trying to cope with that, and in doing so decides, well, I want to see if Doctor Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme, can get a spell working up that will basically make everybody forget. But of course, in the middle of the spell, he realizes that means people that he cares about will forget. He tries to change the parameters, changes it too much, everything gets all fucky, and people from other universes come into play. And when I say people, I mean basically some of the main villains from the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, as well as the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies. So, of course, the big thing in the trailer, you see Doc Ock, you see Green Goblin, you see Electro, Sandman, etc., etc. Now the interdimensional fighting commences and chaos ensues. Director of this one, a John Watts, who his filmography recently, he's directed so far every one of the new Spider-Man films. He did Spider-Man Homecoming, he did Spider-Man Far From Home, and now he finished off his trilogy here with Spider-Man No Way Home. So he also, his filmography goes back 10, 20 plus years, but it's mostly TV spots, shorts, other lesser known films, but these are his biggest Hollywood features. But yeah, in terms of the rest of the cast, it's just, we are faced with a situation that kind of presents us with an ensemble cast. Sure, I could mention the good guys, the bad guys, and all that, but the trailers speak for themselves, and there's just too much to get into. There's just too many people. It's very, as Tom Holland himself said in an interview, it is one of the most ambitious superhero films ever did. Even considering Endgame with that, you know, with that in mind. Like, this still manages to hold its own in that same realm of like ambition for a movie of this caliber. Like, it still matches up to Endgame's strength, which was surprising because I didn't think once Endgame happened, I was like, well, how are you gonna top that? And this movie just about kind of gets there. Like, we're getting to some dangerous like multiverse levels of crazy right now. Really, a lot of this is off the cuff. I started to try to make notes, but this is something where, again, I'm not going to spoil anything that happens, but I thought it was fantastic. People online are calling it like perfection, calling it, you know, this grand cinematic masterpiece. It's great, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's like a masterpiece. I think it's pretty close to a perfect film, but I don't know. My main concern going into it was I was worried that too much of the film, and I was kind of keeping this in mind as the film goes on throughout. Like, I'm like, is this too nostalgia heavy? Is that too much of a crutch for this film? Is it leaning on, you know, humor too much? What is it? What could it possibly be doing wrong? But honestly, I think the movie balances itself out really well. Like, out of the trilogy, you know, everybody always says these new Spider-Man films are doing a good job of balancing the dramatic moments and the humorous moments, and I think this one was no exception. It was well shot, well directed overall. I'm going to go back and forth between pros and cons, a little bit different from my normal formula of reviewing, but again, off the cuff. I will say there's some moments throughout, like especially in some of the action sequences towards the middle and end of the film, mostly the end, where it's kind of hard to follow what's going on, between it being just dark and also like very quick. I mean, of course, it's Spider-Man, so you're flying around and shooting webs and doing this and that, and sometimes it can be kind of a little bit hard to follow. Overall, you get the gist, but it could be a bit clearer, and sometimes it's not. And so, I mean, it's a small complaint. It's not perfect tracking throughout, if you know what I'm saying. The rest of the film is great. It's very smooth, well done, looks great. The visuals, the effects throughout, I mean, the effects, yeah, it's great. It's fun to watch Spider-Man fight bad guys, and especially fight some of the biggest and my favorite bad guys from like my childhood. It's great. Warning, you'll probably cry. I cried several times. Surprisingly, I thought it would get emotional, but damn, this movie will tug at various emotional heartstrings for different reasons. I definitely got teared up, fought back tears, and I definitely full on cried at least twice in this film. It's a very emotional film, and especially Tom Holland, this kid, I mean, there's a reason why he's so popular and why he got the role. He does a great job balancing all of this between dramatic moments and humorous moments, his delivery, the emotion in him. Like, it's great. It's all handled very well. There's a good balance of nostalgia, fan service, new content. Like, they really give you some healthy doses of fan service, but I suppose all things considered, they really could have like really leaned into that, and they don't. So their restraint is admirable. I mean, they could have gone balls to the wall with it like Spider-Verse did, and they didn't. It gets pretty crazy, and it's still some crazy ambitious shit that happens, but it's still like confined to, you know, it's its own film. Which, on that note, the biggest thing for me is when I go see a film like this, when it's like, this is, you know, the third in a trilogy, it's definitely like the umpteenth movie in the MCU. Like, you know, you go in to watch Infinity War and Endgame, you don't have to have watched the other Marvel films, but the context helps. So I'm always curious. And going to see Spider-Man No Way Home, I'm like, well, if I was coming into this just seeing it as a film, not having at any context for anything Marvel, would I enjoy it? Is it a good film? And I think yes. Like, enough of it's explained, and there's enough groundwork in this film itself, and explanations, and plot and narrative, and there's enough in this film to sustain itself, if you know what I'm saying. You don't have to have seen the previous two to still watch this, which is saying something. That's admirable, that you're able to watch it as someone this could be your first Spider-Man movie, or someone like me who has seen everything else, and not only is this a great movie, but also I have the added, you know, context and knowledge of everything that came before. So it works on multiple levels, which is impressive. I had some thoughts, like when I first saw the film, I had some initial thoughts about it. I thought things were going to get even crazier than advertised, and things do get crazy in this film. I'm trying to be vague as possible. I'm so sorry for sounding weird. Things get crazy in this film, when I walked out, I was like, do I feel underwhelmed? And I realized the next film coming up for Marvel, the next big MCU film, is next year with Doctor Strange's Multiverse of Madness. In the show Loki, they've opened up the door, shows like Loki and shows like What If. Marvel's opened up the door for multiple universes and possibilities and things intersecting and crazy comic book type level shit. And I thought that more of that would happen in No Way Home, and some of it did, but I think this was the introduction of those concepts, the introduction that universes can now bleed into each other and cross over. And I think what I was expecting to happen is going to happen in Multiverse of Madness. So, putting my expectations aside and checking them at the door, I can view this film as a film that was an incredible film. What I'm saying is the complaints that I thought I had walking out, with a different context, they're not really there anymore. As the film by itself, it accomplishes exactly what it set out to do. And from my perspective of going into it, thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it's great. The only possible thing I can throw at it is like, it had a good punch to it, but it lacked that supremely powerful punch for me. I would have liked to have seen just a little bit more. And I almost wanted it to be longer, But what we got with it was a great high-flying, web-shooting action film with very surprisingly somber moments, great laugh-out-loud comedy, a shitload of nostalgia and fan service, but all balanced out really well. That's all technically in service of the plot, but also the fans. You might, going into this, you might think that maybe they lean too much on nostalgia, but, an argument could be made, but I don't know. I could go on back and forth talking about it all day. I'll leave it at this. I give Spider-Man No Way Home a low 5 out of 5, I gotta say. I think it's up there with Shang-Chi for sure, in terms of like a damn near perfect film. I really enjoyed it. I loved the journey of it. I laughed, I cried, I was, pumping my fists. I think the only reason I'm detracting anything from the score is because one can make the nostalgia argument. I wanted a slightly better punch from the film, and I really wish marketing for the film didn't show so much. I was hoping for more surprises in the film, and I feel like I would have gotten more surprises had the marketing not shown too much of what was going to be in the film. But I digress. I think it is 110% worth seeing in the theaters. Without question. I will most likely go see it again. IMAX, 100%. 4DX, sure, but I saw it in IMAX and that was great. So, see it in theaters, support it, go see it in IMAX, go watch it with friends or whatever. It's a fantastic film. It is damn near perfect. I don't think Marvel's ever made a perfect film, but I think that this was pretty close. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and that's all I gotta say. No spoilers, gonna keep that out. I want everybody to enjoy it themselves. I want to try to keep people spoiler-free as possible. So, thank you guys and gals so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode of whatever I make. But yeah, goodbye, travelers. And if I had the effects, I'd be like, whoop, and I would go off screen, but yeah, we're not there. So it's kind of more like, thwip, and then it's like, yeah.